Okay. Welcome everyone to the Impact Scholar seminar presentations. Just to give a brief overview of what the Impact Scholar is a 6-month initiative that brings together Neuromatch and Clamatch students to collaborate in international teams on research projects that began during our July courses. The program culminates with an open access micropublication that will be shared around May on Zenodo, a public summary, and a seminar presentation. And today we will hear from one group showcasing the work that they have developed over the past 6 months. And a few instructions for today. The group will have 15 minutes to present, followed by 5-minute questions. And our presentation today will be from the Impactful Scholars group, from the Computational Neuroscience course, and the project is titled Representation of Semantic Encoding in Low and Intermediate Level Visual Regions. I'll now hand the stage over to them, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you. So hello all. As we said, we represent our research representation of semantic encoding in low and intermediate level visual regions. This is a collaborative work between Umur Yildiz from Bilkent's Cognitive Computational Neuroscience Lab, Kelbakh from Yüce's Division of Psychology and Language Sciences, myself, Berk, Yüce from Bilkent's Neuroscience Department, and our mentor, Tonghe Zhuang from Justus Liebig Universitat Gießen. So the human visual system can spot a predator in the wild or recognize a friend's face in a crowd within milliseconds. That abilities that reflect our brain's capacity for rapid object categorization. So Hippolyte Wiesel's work in 1962 established that early visual areas like V1 detect basic features such as edges, orientation, contrast differences, which are the fundamental building blocks of any visual scene. Then a central question in visual neuroscience is whether these early visual areas encode more than just lines and edges. They might also encode meaningful information about what we are looking at. So whether it's something is alive, artificial, or has a face. So traditional view suggests that semantic categories are primarily constructed in higher cognitive areas like the prefrontal cortex. So according to Friedman and his colleagues in 2001, early visual processing focuses on feature extraction, with meaning emerging only later in the processing stream. But more recently, Long, Yu, and Kunkel challenged this notion in their 2018 work and proposing that categorical information might emerge gradually throughout the visual hierarchy and possibly starting earlier than we previously thought. So our study investigates whether semantic categories are represented in early and intermediate visual regions, and if so, whether this representation exists independently of low-level visual features. The answer could significantly alter our understanding of visual processing. So our research question is shaped as when we observe category-specific activity patterns in the early visual cortex, what drives these patterns? Are distinctions like animate-inanimate, natural, human-made, or face-no-face simply side effects of processing low-level visual features that happen to cluster together? Or is the brain computing something meaningful about these categories, even at early processing stages? When V2 or V3 responds differently to faces versus no-faces, is it merely detecting the curved contours or contrast patterns common to faces, or is there genuine encoding of faceness as a meaningful category? Thus, we have hypothesized that if category-specific information persists after controlling for low-level visual features, this will provide evidence for early semantic encoding in visual stream. Such a finding could challenge purely feed-forward models and suggest a more interactive visual processing system. So let's dive into method section. So we used a fMRI dataset from Kay and colleagues 2008 study, which provided neural activity patterns in early visual areas such as V1 to V4 and intermediate visual areas such as LOC as participants viewed various facial images. We enlisted 3 independent raters to classify the images into K binary distinctions over 1,000 images per categories, such as animate or inanimate objects, natural or human-made items, image with or without faces. We created 2 versions for the face category. And the first included only clear human faces, while the second are a more comprehensive face category also included partial faces and animal faces. This distinction allowed us to test whether the brain process all face-like stimuli similarly or treat human faces as a special case. Images where raters disagreed or found ambiguous were excluded to ensure clean category boundaries. The sample images displayed on the right illustrate examples from our different categories, showing the distinctions between animate objects like the child in the top image and inanimate object like the rock formation in the middle. So let's look at the analysis part. Our analytical approach combines several complementary techniques to examine category representation. We began with representation similarity analysis, RSA. For each visual region, we constructed neural representation with similarity matrices by calculating the distances between activity patterns evoked by different images. These neural RDMs were compared with categorical model RDMs, which encode how similar or different images should be based on their category membership. So in the graph, you can see our RDM examples that we were using for animate, inanimate, and face present and face absent classes. To distinguish category-specific signals from low-level visual features, we extracted features from AlexNet's Conv2 layer, a level that captures basic visual properties without encoding high-level semantics. So this created us low-level feature RDM that served as our control. We then employed MDMR, multivariate distance matrix regression, to assess whether category effects remain significant after statistically controlling for low-level features. So this approach allowed us to isolate and quantify the unique contribution of categorical information. We also implemented variance partitioning to measure how much unique variance each category explained beyond what could be attributed to visual features. And finally, we trained SVM support vector machine classifiers to predict category labels directly from voxel activity patterns, so using ROC curves and AUC metrics to evaluate performance across visual regions. So our multi-pronged approach provided converging evidence about category representation throughout the visual hierarchy.
So diving into results, the bar graphs you see show candle tower correlations between neural activity patterns and our category models across different regions of interests. The stars above each bar indicate statistical significance after FDR correction. All 4 categories show some level of significant correlation in at least some of the regions. However, 2 categories stand out with more substantial effect sizes. The animate-inanimate distinction and the comprehensive face category is 2 of those, and the face category is the one that includes partial and animal faces. Correlation strengths form a clear gradient across the visual hierarchy. V1 shows the weakest category relationships, while the lateral occipital cortex displays the strongest effects. This progression suggests that the categorical information becomes increasingly explicit as we move along the visual stream, but more importantly, even at the V2 level, we can already detect significant category relationships, suggesting that semantic information might emerge earlier than traditional thought. Moving forward, our MDMR analysis addresses whether category effects persist when controlling for low-level visual features. In these charts, the blue bars represent partial MDMR-F values, including category effects after controlling for low-level features, while the red bars show the p-values of corresponding analyses. We found two categories, natural versus human-made and the strict human face category, that almost completely disappeared after controlling for low-level features. This suggests that these apparent category effects in early visual areas might simply reflect shared visual properties rather than true semantic encoding. In contrast, the animate-inanimate distinction and the comprehensive face category show persistent effects even after feature control. The significant blue bars marked with asterisks across multiple regions become particularly pronounced in V3A, V3B, and V4, and reach a peak in the lateral occipital cortex. This pattern reveals that not all categories are processed equally by the visual system. Animacy and face information appear to receive privileged processing, with genuine semantic encoding beginning in the early visual regions and strengthening along the visual pathway. Our ROC curves from our classification analysis can distinguish between categories based solely on voxel activity patterns. The curves illustrate a hierarchical progression in classification performance, and they become, again, increasingly bowed toward to the upper left corner as we move from V1 through the lateral occipital cortex, indicating progressively better classification. For animacy, which you see on the right panel, and the comprehensive face category, which you see on the left panel, AUC scores start around 0.59 in V2, just above chance level, but increase dramatically to reach values of 0.885 and 0.861 in the lateral occipital cortex. This performance gradient reinforces our earlier findings. V1 operates near chance levels, consistent with its primary role in feature extraction. V2 shows the first hints of category selectivity. Intermediate regions like V3 and V4 demonstrate moderate performance, and lateral occipital cortex, as expected, achieves high classification accuracy. The above chance classification, even in early regions, though, suggests that categorical information is present, albeit in a less explicit form than in higher regions. The violin plots from our variance partitioning analysis show the distribution of category-specific effects across voxels in each region. As we move from V1 toward the lateral occipital cortex, both the mean and the variance explained increases, and the heterogeneity across voxels grows. In regions V2 through V4, we can identify individual voxels that show significant category selectivity beyond what would be expected from low-level features alone. This becomes more apparent in the lateral occipital cortex, where many voxels and patches displayed significant category tuning. These distributions indicate that category selectivity emerges gradually, with certain voxels and patches showing signs of early specialization that become increasingly common in the higher visual areas. So our findings present a nuanced picture of how categorical information flows through the visual system. The traditional view of visual processing as a strictly feed-forward hierarchy with low-level feature extraction in early areas and semantic processing only in higher areas appears to be oversimplified according to our analysis. Instead, our results point toward a more interactive system where categorical information begins to emerge early. V1 remains largely driven by low-level visual features, showing minimal category-specific encoding, consistent with its established role in edge detection and orientation processing. Starting with V2 and becoming more prominent in V3 and V4, we see statistically significant encoding of animate-inanimate and face-non-face distinctions that cannot be explained by low-level visual properties. This categorical encoding then strengthens dramatically in the lateral occipital cortex. The category specificity of these effects is notable. Animacy and face information received privileged processing with robust representation throughout the visual hierarchy. This special status makes evolutionary sense as well. Rapidly detecting animate agents and faces would have conferred significant survival and social advantages. In contrast, distinctions like natural versus human-made appear to be more heavily relied on a higher level processing, showing minimal unique encoding in early visual areas once low-level features are accounted for. These findings support models of visual processing that incorporate recurrent connections and top-down influences, where semantic information can shape representations even in early visual cortex. The visual system appears to integrate information across processing levels rather than operating as a strictly sequential pipeline.
Sorry.
Several constraints also should be noted in our approach. While AlexNet's Con2 layer provided a good control for low-level features, newer deep neural networks might offer better feature modeling. Future work could employ more sophisticated models that capture additional visual properties, potentially providing stricter controls. Our analyses focused on overall activity patterns within each region, without examining the spatial organization of category selective responses. A more detailed spatial analysis might reveal topographic organization of category information within each visual area. Considering the importance of converging behavioral and neural data in neuroimaging, a limitation of our categorization approach is the use of independent raters, distinct from the fMRI participants. This separation means participants' subjective categorization of ambiguous images could differ from the raters' classifications, potentially affecting the interpretation of neural activity relative to the assigned categories, even with control measures in place. And yeah, that's it from us. I'd like to thank you all for your attention, Dr. Zhuang for her valuable mentorship throughout the program. Yeah, thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the amazing work that you have done during this months and for actually everything that you have achieved. Can I ask whether, like, do you want to take this work further? Like, what are the future directions of this particular work? If you ever thought about anything, like in terms of how to take it forward.
Yeah. So the main part we think is that for low-level visual features, for the work to be more robust, we should have better models and definitely a lot more categorical models that will have like size and depth and so on for stimuli such as this. And probably if we're going to use, again, deep neural networks, probably use networks that have better alignment with low-level visual regions in the very new literature, rather than like as let's say intermediately old model like AlexNet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so I will stop the recording here, and thank you very much for everything that you have done today, guys.